Like many people, I never thought I would run a marathon in my life. Yeah, I enjoyed those shorter sprint distances like the 200-metre race and a kick of the footy here and there, but never the thought of running 42.195 kilometres. Yet, as I sit here recording this in August of 2024, I'm just weeks away from running my third marathon in under a year. How did this happen? I've always been involved in some form of sport or exercise ever since I was younger. Karate, BMX, athletics, touch rugby, AFL footy, gym, and most recently, madly addicted to marathon running. I grew up in Darwin, so outside of camping and fishing, there's not really much to do up there. So sport and exercise kind of filled that void whilst I was living up there. I'm a highly competitive person, so when it came to training in whatever sport I found myself in, was one person to not miss a single session in order to achieve that goal, whether that was winning the grand final in footy or taking out the NT titles in BMX. This included travelling across the country to compete in many different sporting competitions, going to the karate championships in Adelaide when I was younger, the BMX national championships up in Shepparton, just not too far here from Melbourne, competing in the all-schools athletics competition in Tasmania, and even featuring in the grand final in my local under-16s footy competition. I never wanted to be an elite athlete. However, I thoroughly enjoyed adopting an elite athlete mindset when it came to my training, competition, and in life in general. I'd always ask myself, how could I perform best to achieve my goal? I moved down to Melbourne in 2015, being the first in my family to go to university, not knowing what to expect. It was also like setting up my life from zero too, having just a couple of friends move down for university too, but no family or relatives here. I was very homesick in the early stages of university, far from everything that I'd grown to know. I slowly started to settle in Melbourne, building a new network of friends, lifestyle, and hobbies that I'd complete on the weekends, though one core part was missing. The only time I found myself exercising during the week were on my walks to and from university to attend classes. Soon, my weekends were replaced with binge drinking, a ton of gaming, and going to the footy. I also can't forget my non-existent diet going strong while I learnt to fend for myself. I'd fallen to the lowest point in my life in my second year of university in 2016, which had me staying in hospital for an extended period of time. I wasn't getting any better over the weeks spent in there. However, there was a turning point. One of the nurses asked if I wanted to shoot some hoops, and this was the first point that I started to exercise again, though in a much smaller dose. I started to get a lot better after being discharged from the hospital, discovering that the local Aboriginal Health Service had a gym there too, so would see my psychologist and then head for a gym session straight after. At that point in time, I wanted to get swole, but you can see how much that turned out. After a few months of attending the gym and getting to know the staff at the health service, I was offered a casual position as an Indigenous Health Promotion Officer. During that time, I thoroughly enjoyed getting to host some 6-week challenges out in the community, as well as attending some of the statewide footy and netball carnivals. It was here that I rediscovered my love for exercise. One of my friends who worked at the health service with me had been selected for the 2020 Indigenous Marathon Project squad. However, with Melbourne being in lockdown for most of the year, ended up running her marathon over in Alice Springs. She suggested that I apply for it in future years. However, again, that thought of running 42.195 kilometres just didn't calculate in my brain. During the COVID years in 2020, I signed myself up for a couple of virtual runs, training for my first ever half marathon, but getting injured due to all the work from home changes and not having the best chair, ending up walking the entire half marathon to ensure that I'd earned the medal that had been sent out the week prior. The furthest that I'd run during the half marathon training before getting injured was running 15 kilometres. With more nudging from my friend, I ended up applying for the program in 2021, attending a 5-kilometre trial where I ended up throwing up my breakfast after 3 kilometres and crawling for the last 2. I didn't get selected into the squad that year, but the process of getting to meet the coach and be a part of the trial was something that planted a seed in the back of my head, and I thought to myself, maybe I'd apply again next year. I went about doing my gym routine as well as a run every 2 weeks or so, and was noticing some gains in the chest as well as my biceps, but no closer to wanting to run a marathon. I trialed again for the marathon project in 2022, however, received a call from the head coach that I was shortlisted. That stung a little, and I decided, look, I might try again next year. This was the same approach as I led myself into 2023, applying for the program again to show up and give it a go. In April last year, I received a call that I would be training to run the 2023 New York City Marathon, selected as a member of the Indigenous Marathon Project Squad. I would go from running just a casual 5 kilometers every couple of weeks to a full marathon in 209 days. Not a long time, especially with no long distance running experience. And when I happily agreed to be a part of the program, realized that this was the right time to immerse myself in a program to grow and emerge, learning how to be consistent with my training, understanding that these things do take time, so learning about delayed gratification, and just a year to actually work towards something that I really wanted. Throughout last year, the only thought that really went through my head was I am going to get to the starting line of that marathon. So even outside of training, that was ensuring I'd complete the education modules that we had scheduled for each workshop, and ensuring to turn up to all of our squad catch-ups and provide as much support to the rest of the squad as I could. I will admit, it did cause some breakdowns in other parts of my life, but in that year, I almost just wanted to put myself first and work towards this seemingly unachievable goal. I look back now, remembering 9Ks as a long run seemed daunting, and today when I'm training for the Chicago Marathon, seeing myself about to run 28 kilometers on the weekend. And in October of last year, secured my spot in the squad to head over to New York City to run my first ever marathon. I've experienced a lot of firsts in my life, being the first in my family to go to university, and also being the first in my family to run a marathon. And I acknowledge that I was given an opportunity that not many people receive in their lives, so it's something I am deeply grateful for. But now, it's more than just running a marathon. It's inspiring and supporting those who may want to live more active and healthy lifestyles. It's one of the reasons I purchased a GoPro, to capture my journey, to share my experiences as well as the lessons that I've learnt along this short journey so far. It's a reminder as I get to the starting line of a marathon that I'm surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands, of other stories on how runners made their way to the starting line too. This is my story. See you soon, Chicago.